What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dig It Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Walsh, and today we have Coach Meg Rem of Meg Rem Softball. Absolute stud. I've been following you for years now, and you've always been someone who I've looked back to and checked out your information. I'm constantly learning. I'm a very curious coach, and you are definitely one of the go-to coaches for me to go to and just see what's going on, see your fundamentals, see your drills. I love everything about the message you spread. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Coach. Please just tell our
Absolutely.
listeners a little bit about yourself, where you were and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I grew up in Ohio, went to Appalachian
Buckeyes
State,
fan?
and actually, no, I don't.
Uh-oh,
Everyone
uh-oh.
asks me that.
Is
I
that why you're
don't
living in
dislike
Florida
them.
now?
No, I don't dislike Ohio State. I just have never. I don't know. Our family was never a fan, but grew up in Ohio, went to Appalachian State in North Carolina, played 4 years there. I was a middle infielder, 3 years at shortstop, 1 year at second base. I was a righty hitter. When I was 17, my coach was like, "Hey, you're fast." So he put me on the left side as a slapper. And I did both, which I don't recommend. And that's another story for another time. But I don't recommend, going right side and left side. So I actually did both because no one told me not to until my senior year. And I just decided to be a slapper. So after college, I did a little bit of coaching here and there. I helped a high school team, and then I ended up doing lessons full time, starting in about I think it was 2019 or 2020, and then started a YouTube channel in 2020. Just drills, kind of helping parents out, coaches out, and then it blew up, and now I'm traveling the country doing clinics.
Every weekend.
Close seems like close to it. In April, this past month, I was gone every weekend. So yeah.
It's not an April Fool's, guys. She is an absolute stud. So a
Thank
few
you.
things I want to unpack there. Like, just on that note, like every coach out there who's like questioning, like, should I go be a coach or should I get out of high school or college coaching and do listen, if you got a message to send, go do it. There's a high ceiling that we're all exploring, and Coach Meg Rem is doing that at an incredibly high level. Secondly, if you guys, we talk a lot about just like being, you have to be adaptable, right? You have to adjust to your environment. You were 17, probably pretty good at softball, right? Playing Division 1. I was 17 in the freshman year.
No,
Are
I
you in
was
high school?
18. Yeah,
Okay.
so I graduated when I was 18.
So just making that type of adjustment, that's not even that far in your career, but you're 17
Yeah.
years old. You played the game for a
Recruiting
while.
time. Yeah.
Recruiting time, and you were that open-minded to make an adjustment. Now listen, like you said, there's pros and cons to it, of course, but if we could just take away your open-mindedness to learn at that age, at that skill level, and we'll unpack that throughout this podcast. I just think those are incredible highlights. Do you have anything to touch upon that now that we said it?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know when my coach said it, and I think at the time too, like I was a good, I say good, like I was singles doubles on the right side. I wasn't a power hitter. I made good contact, but I don't think I was getting a lot of looks when I was 16, 17. And then my coach was like, "You're really fast, athletic." And he was like, "Let's put you on the left side." And I don't know, unless I can't remember, I was like, okay. Like I didn't think, oh, I just remember being stressed, like, oh, I wasn't getting recruited. But in my head, I'm like, well, my coach is saying this. Obviously, I had a lot of faith in him, and it actually, and I looking back, and I even tell girls now, like, I don't know if I would switch a girl over at that age, especially if they're trying to go at a high level. But my coach was like, you can do it. And I'm like, okay, great. So having the confidence in him, and obviously he helped develop me, and I started putting the ball in play, and coaches were able to see my athleticism. I was getting on bases, even if it wasn't a pretty swing, but they're like, dang, she's quick. She can steal bases. She's a good base runner. I don't know.
So I think that's the cool part of it, like the potential. Like I recruited for a few years in college, and there's a lot of things you recruit from a physical standpoint. Athleticism is like the umbrella. Like if you got a good athlete and you hear coaches talk about it often, like they're going after center fielders and shortstops because if you're an athlete, you could adjust more to your environment. And usually the best athletes are the best like not compensators, but they could take verbal feedback, internalize it, and then they could create like a task, right? Like they get the tasks done much quicker, adjust much quicker. So you were able to do that, and obviously it's a major adjustment going from the right side to the left side,
Yeah.
and two different swings are completely different.
Yeah. Very.
My question, were you recruited before or after you made the adjustment?
I got like a couple offers from small schools before, and then so I actually didn't end up signing with AF until November of my senior year. So yeah, it was after I switched. I think I had three major offers and one of them being AF. So yeah, it was after.
So
So it
maybe,
worked.
maybe, right? Like you can't say it didn't work, right? Like you got an offer and you got a chance to go figure it out again for another 4 years, which is
Yeah.
awesome, right? Like I don't, that's why we're coaches, right? Like we've learned through experience, and then it depends on who's in front of us if we're going to give the same advice or not, that to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you said you got into lessons, right? Like you love the game, you're obviously really good at it, and you thought you can give back more. So take me through that. Like, what are some things that you take away 5 years ago that you might have coached that today you wouldn't, as far as the infield side, maybe?
Oh, I don't even, to be honest, I don't even really remember when I started. I didn't really have like a philosophy. I actually started lessons. So getting into softball was never my goal. It was kind of crazy how it happened. So I had one of a really good friends who was giving lessons at the softball project in Charlotte, where I was ended up giving lessons. And she's like, "Hey, the owner Kelsey is looking for a helper for a clinic. Someone backed out last second." And I was like, "Okay, she, a certain amount she's going to pay me." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So after the clinic or the camp, I was like, God, just being in that environment, I really missed it. So she's like, and I was like, oh, I think I kind of would like to back into softball. I miss it. And she's like, well, I need a defensive instructor. And that's how it happened. I started with like one lesson a week. I don't remember having like a philosophy or like or if I changed something way back then. I feel like with social media, it has helped to like certain instructors, like someone like yourself, I see content that is out and I like the way they word it. I might be saying it a different way, but I hear someone else saying, same way but different. And I'll kind of like take cues from that. So, I think social media is it's definitely can be very negative, but with it, there's a lot of great instructors out there who give good tips and help me figure out how to maybe word something differently.
Love that. And that just another, like, being adjustable, learning from other peers. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm super curious. I love to learn. And I just love the way you phrase that. Like, you're putting out content to go help maybe the younger Meg Rem or whoever wants help. Like, you're not trying to mess anyone's day up, right? So like
Right.
understand that people who are piranhas out there, like, man, go somewhere else. But what is something you're seeing right now and we'll start, this was all fair, we had a quick conversation, but like, what are some things you're seeing in softball right now that is most pressing to you on a week to week, month to month basis that you want to address?
Yeah, specifically with infielders is we're just really robotic. And I think it also stems from social media. You see so many drills and, I'll post a video about here's how you throw on the run. And for us who played the game, we know it's not going to be perfect left foot in front, this beautiful arm slot. Like it just depends on how the ball is hit. And we put out content to give you just a very general understanding, but a lot of people take it as, well, you can only have your left foot and you can only go with one hand and you can only throw from this slot. So you're seeing that in a lot of players, and no fault to their own. They're just being coached that way. It's like we're just so robotic and we're not just loose and we don't play the ball how it's hit. We're just like we have this certain vision in our head that we have to do it that way.
And that's a great point. For me, like, sometimes people be like, dude, why do you put out like so much content? I'm like, why not? Like, that's what I love to do. I just want to help the community, the small community that I have. But also, if we're going to actually further that conversation, I'm giving you maybe B, not A, or D, not C. Like, I'm not giving you the progressions that I got there, right? So, like, it's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
what I put up, it might be a great drill, but it's only a good drill if you execute it properly. But, like, there's progressions, there's ways you get to things, and it's not always pretty. In fact, it's usually not. Like, it's very rare that you have a new skill and you just execute it flawlessly and fluently right away, right? There's a very ugly process. Ugly is a bad word, but like it's almost like, listen, progress isn't vertical only, right? It's kind of goes down, peaks and valleys, sideways,
Yeah.
backwards, up. And I think good coaches understand that. Like if we're in a session and we're, as long as the kid's safe, right? They're not hurting themselves, right? But they're exploring different throwing slots and it doesn't look pretty. If they're 10 feet away from each other, I have zero concerns. Like all I'm trying to do is get the brain to familiarize a
Yeah.
movement and explore different pathways and actions. And then you see the external environment if that's good feedback. Like if the ball went where it should have, that's, you probably did a decent job. Did it hurt? Yes or no? Like that's where I think social media gets in trouble, is like if you take a drill for like fact, like it might work
Right.
for you and not me. That's where I don't know how you differentiate it, coach. Like, how do you tell someone to stay away from bad content? What's bad content? Could you
Yeah.
define that?
No, I just no, I can't. I think it's just one of those where you ask other people, maybe on your, if you're a parent who's never been, and that's why I started my channel. I'm gonna hopefully be a resource for coaches who have to volunteer, or they don't have to, but they're volunteering to step up with this 8-10U softball team. They've never played softball in their life. So that was my reason for kind of starting all of this, was to help out coaches, kind of give them pieces. But no, I mean, obviously we know content, or we see content out there that we're just like, I don't know about that. Um, but there's certain things too that maybe it works, it works for others. And I was telling a coach the other day at my clinic, I'm like, so I think he was asking me, I think it was, my daughter she gets under every single ball, every single ball. And I was like, tell her to hit a ground, you do BP or do front toss, tell her to hit a ground ball. And I'm like, what's funny? If I were to put that online, that comment right there,
Destroyed.
destroyed. But it's like, because it's for that specific athlete, her muscle memories, everything's here going straight up. I'm like, but if you just over exaggerate down, she's probably going to be where she needs to be. Do I want her to hit straight down? No. But for her, she needs to feel it. So, yes, there's a bunch of drills out there that it doesn't work for some, but it's great for others. So it's just trial and error. I really think, doing certain drills.
100%. Like you said, I think like you do such a great job at explaining. So for me to answer my own question, like for you to find a quality coach, look for coaches that give content with a purpose, give content with a
Yeah.
message, right? Like if I just put up good drills and say first step is important,
Right.
I don't know. I think a lot of people understand that, but if I happen to chunk a few things of it, cues or reasons or scenarios, and tell a story about first step, then I think maybe that's a coach who's trying, right? Like, and I think you do such a great job at that. Everybody, and we'll get your information at the end, but like go to Coach Meg Rem's YouTube account, go to her Instagram. She's not hiding anything. She's giving you everything she can. She's coaching you from afar. She's using social media in an amazing way, like how it could be used properly. So awesome job on that.
Thank you.
So what would you look for? Like, say I'm trying to get recruited. I'm a baseball and softball high schooler, right? Maybe my sophomore, junior year. What are some things you're looking for if you're out at a big tournament, and what are you looking for in an infielder that captures your eyes, where you think you want to invest in that infielder?
Yeah, definitely with just with the fundamental part of it, footwork. I obviously footwork, glove work is really important. But someone who's light, quick on their feet, I think the biggest thing, aside from being an athlete or being athletic, is knowing the game. And that's also why I started my channel. I think drills are awesome and it's so great, but it does you no good to be very athletic if you don't know how to play your position. So, if you're playing short and yeah, you got great footwork, you're getting the balls up the middle. But if you got like a runner on third, I don't know. It's just like when you don't know where to throw the ball or you don't really have that softball IQ, your athleticism only gets you so far. And I've seen that with a lot of athletes that I coach and that I played with. So athletic, great footwork, great glove. They just don't know. They don't know what to do and they don't know how to go about it.
I love that. And it makes me think about, like, listen, we played with a lot of talented athletes and baseball and softball players, right? In college, everyone was the best on their travel
Right.
team, right? So you're all kind of equal. Like, you do some things better than other players, they do some things better than you. But then you watch some players, you're like, they're just more talented than you and they can't perform at that level. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different reasons, right? But one of them I think is, like, the game speeds up, right? It's the physical game speeds up. Everyone's stronger and faster. Where you need to speed up to catch up to that game speed is intrinsically, like in between the
Yeah.
ears. To what you just said, like when the ball is hit to you, you don't know what to do. Whatever, your mind's going to be spinning when you don't know what to do, right? You're trying to think
Yeah.
about a million different things. Well, how quick do you think your body's going to react if there's a million things going on between your ears? Not well, right? Paralysis by analysis. So a big thing that helped me at that level, because the game's fast, man. You're like, oh my Atlanta, that's a grown man
Mm-hmm.
or a woman hitting the ball at me really hard. Free play, like, understand what you're going to do with the ball before it's hit to you, and then understand, like, ball hit to my right, left, forward,
Yes.
behind me, who's running. Like, if I got a speedy runner who's going to be aggressive, pump fakes come into play. If I got a really slow runner, I got time to secure the ball and
Right.
make sure, right, stuff like that that
Yeah.
give you a chance to express athleticism.
And knowing your butt, like kind of like what you said, explore in the beginning about throwing, like just exploring how to move and how to go about different things. Like, are you good at moving to your left with balls up the middle, or how's your backhand, stuff like that? Like knowing your own body. Like for me, I didn't have a strong arm. I was very fast, great footwork. I just didn't have a strong arm. So I knew, for example, if there's a runner on third or I don't know, runner on second, and I'm going in that 5, 6 hole deep, I'm probably not going to be able to get that girl out at first. So knowing, like you said, pump fake, get that girl leaning, and I'm going to get her out at second. But that's situations like that. I feel like aren't focused on enough, and that all starts at practice. And I understand coaches want to get in a bunch of drills and reps, but if you don't know how to play the game, it does you no good. Your athleticism only gets you so far.
100%. We're all playing under the umbrella of the strategy and tactics of baseball and softball. And then we're in
Mm-hmm.
little subcategories of infield, pitcher, catcher, outfielder, and they're all connected and intertwined. But it's not just us on the field, right? We're communicating with people around us, and then we're communicating with the environment. So all of those things, you have, like, back to our point about like drills on social media and building robots as infielders. I think a lot of coaches are okay at giving little segments of coaching and infield, but like, I think where the best coaches thrive is the links in between those segments and chunks of infield and skill development, because you could be really good at one thing with your hands but have no idea with your feet, really good thing with your feet but have no idea with your hands, and you have no
Mm-hmm.
idea why it's affecting your throw, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's where I think the good coaching, when you weave and blend those segments and link them, that's when you can build a complete infielder, right?
Yeah. And that's going off that. So at my clinics, my infield portion is all footwork, glove work. And the one thing for infield, we don't throw. And I know some parents, I shouldn't say a lot, but some parents don't like that. And what I talk about is we have great footwork. We don't work on the transfer. And in softball, and obviously in baseball, you got to have quick transfers, but softball, we know that's a quick game. So the transfer, in my opinion, is just as fast or is just as important as the footwork. So we do a lot of like, after we field, it's get the ball, I call it the U shape, just like in our throwing position. And we're doing all these fun drills, and a lot of the girls, let's say, ball up the middle, and they're doing a little spin, but then they're holding on to the ball. And I'm like, I think it's awesome. That was a great play. always work on getting the ball out, because you're going to make those plays in a game, make it, or, make it second nature to where in a game, you're making the play and you're throwing her out because you're working on the transfer. Transfers is very, very important along with the footwork.
Coach, I'm fired up right now because I am so enthusiastic about the hands, right? Like where the throw starts when the ball hits your glove.
Right.
Right, like where and then where that ball hits your glove that's a whole nother podcast, because kids don't know where the ball should be with one hand in their glove. They don't understand catching the fingertips with one hand. They don't understand with
Yeah.
two hands kill the ball in the pocket. And the throwing process is pretty important. The game's catch and throw. Where your hands break begins your throw. Like your hands are your first part of your throw. So where that ball arrives within your glove is incredibly influential on your throwing pathway. And that pathway is contextual to where you are in the field, what slot you have to use, where your momentum's going, your target, etc. But like, why would I throw if I can't? Why would I run if I can't crawl? Right. So if I'm catching the ball off my right foot consistently, well, I'm not moving forward. Like I'm not going anywhere but there. If I'm catching off my left foot, we're not moving anywhere forward progressionally until you understand where to arrive with your right, left, and create a good fielding triangle. And then okay, let's break our hands now. But is your handbrake connected with your feet replaced? So it's just like in your game, I love watching college softball. I tell all of my players to go watch softball infielders because you guys do it right. You guys play offense because you have to. Baseball, different dimensions. It's a little bit of different internal clock, but I think it debilitates a lot of infielders because they take that for granted. You have infielders take their time and then the game speeds up. It's chaotic. You have infielders who say they have a strong arm, rely on it. That's why. Man, we play I always talk about it, Coach. Obviously, the game's defensive. It's labeled as a defensive position, but we play offense. We play offense. That's our approach to infield play, is being aggressive, bold, take risk, because my job is to get the pitcher back in the dugout as quick as possible. And if I don't play offense, I'm selfish. If I'm scared to make an error, I'm selfish.
Yeah.
And I'm fired up that you're into what do you got?
No, that what you were just saying about speeding up or keeping the game fast, I'm very big on, especially at my clinics. I'm like, I want you to practice like someone's getting down the line in 2.8 seconds. That's average speed, or normal speed for slappers. It's so much easier to practice fast, especially in softball, but it's so much easier to practice fast, slow it down in a game if you need to. But what you can't do is go slow. So for example, in our drills, I don't want you fielding and then hanging out with the ball here, because come game time, when you need to speed it up, you're going to panic and then everything just goes crazy. So practice or go all out, acting like someone's getting down the line in under 3 seconds. So much easier to slow it down, but we can't do go slow and then speed it up come game time. It doesn't work that way.
And what Coach is saying is when they're revved up game reps, you can't go slow. But Coach works for 20 minutes on building skills, right? You can go slow when you're building skills because you don't understand, you're not competent yet at that skill. You're not comfortable yet at that skill. But once you're building competency and understanding of that pattern or skill, go, because then it exposes you to what you need to work on, right? And why not let practice do that before the game?
Yeah, and I even at my clinics, I tell the girls, I want you to make mistakes, because to me that means you're pushing yourself. And every question I always ask in my clinics, do you watch college softball? Yeah. I said, do you think that game looks easy? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, you want to know why? It's because they're busting their butt at practice, and it's hard. Practice is hard. They're making mistakes. They're probably getting yelled at, all this stuff. But they're doing that hard stuff, and then so they're getting that out of the way. So come game time, it's easy. So I know a lot of girls think, oh, college softball looks so easy, anyone can do it. No, they make it look easy. It's hard. So go all out at practice, figure it out there.
I love that. What you do a lot of clinics. Give me a few bullet points of, hey Coach, what's going on? Good to see you. What are some things we really want to attack today or this weekend, or say you're a week out from it? What are coaches like, hey, our girls collectively really struggle with X, Y, or Z?
Yeah. So with my clinics, depending on if it's public or private, it's usually the same type of format. If it's private with like just a specific organization, I'll ask coach, like, is there something, that you really want to work on? But what I find, regardless of what state I go to, is that I always work on a lot of footwork. Obviously, like I said, footwork, glove work, infield, a little more throwing for outfield, and then tee work with hitting. Um, Everyone's kind of the same, and we still have a lot of work to do with our footwork, our glove work, hitting off the tee. And I try to explain, guys, I know it's boring. I've been there, done that, but that small stuff is what's going to make a huge difference. So we're not doing crazy things like throwing on the run, turning double plays. It's just getting lighter, quicker on our feet, how to position your glove, how to set up on the tee, which I just had a group of, they were like 16 to 18-year-olds. And I'm like, here's how you set up on the tee. I know this sounds like T-ball 101, but it is wild to me, someone trying to hit a ball down the middle and the ball's behind them. And I'm like, we don't know how to set up on the tee. It's stuff like that in a game, you can have the best swing in the world, but if your timing's off, it does you no good.
100%. Speaking of gloves,
the fundamentals.
Coach, fundamentals. Absolutely love that. And kids, I know you hear that all the time, but maybe coach got to do a better job at making the fundamentals fun, exciting, or just explain them well. Like explain them well so the kid could be like, oh, I see the bridge in front of me now where it's leading versus, I have no idea what you just said. And it's also, listen, it's on the athlete to say something. Not to go down that rabbit hole. About hands, though, real quick, what are some cues you give the infielders about glove presentation timing? Like, A, what's a good presentation? B, what's a good timing mechanism?
Yeah, so I always like to say, so obviously we have our pocket, and I explain where the pocket's at. And I don't know how it is for baseball. I feel like to be maybe a little bit more lenient with how you start, but I always say I want that pocket open. It's like you got an eyeball there. It's got to see the ball, especially if you're playing corners in the infield and that ball is just shot to you. Even if we are here and flipping, or it's too late. So I'm always talking about everything that we do, and I'll even stand up, like pockets open, ready to go. Timing, are you talking about timing with just like when you're fielding or with glove?
Yeah, no, that's my fault. Just a routine ground ball straight at you.
Yeah. So I always like to say too, I'll just use righties as an example, is that that left foot is hitting when that ball hits that glove. And I actually, speaking of terminology from other instructors that I like, is Jay Pryor. He was talking about
Coach Jay, that's our guy. Yeah.
So he was talking, this might have been a year ago, but he was talking about, it's like you're stepping on a gas pedal to go to first base. And I remember hearing that. I'm like, dang, I like that, because it's true. It's like, if you just hop, stop, field it, and then throw. And obviously, again, it depends on the ball, but it's just normal routine ground ball. You want to keep everything fluid and in one motion. And it's like you're stepping on that gas pedal, heel toe, and you're getting to your target. And I love that. I was like, that is genius.
100%. That's where I got it from too. And I freaking love that. That's just a great concept. Hey, how'd your mom and dad drive you today? What'd they have to hit on in the car? The gas pedal. Like, okay, well, timing, direction, momentum. Yeah. And that's what good coaches do. Like if good coaches simplify complex things, right? Or good coaches say the same thing 50 different ways because there's 50 different kids. Coach, thank you so much for your time. We're going to stop it here, but I want to make sure our listeners can find you on social media. Where can they find you? What platforms? What's your handle?
Yep. So it's Meg Rem Softball for all of my my socials. So I've got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter.
Everywhere. She's everywhere. Gotta go find her.
A lot of content.
I love it. And I consume it, and I recommend everyone else go there and consume it as well. Coach, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you and look forward to having you back on again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.